What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. I'm Taquin. Right off the bat, to not waste your time, this video is going to be a stark contrast to the sort of unfiltered hype and optimism of the last video. I don't want to be too negative in this video, but there's just a couple things that are concerning me with Halo Reach on PC and this forum post that Postums, one of the community team members at 343, put up today. And essentially, this forum post details some things that we may actually not be seeing on launch. And with the announcement of Halo Reach on PC launching on December 3rd, I thought about that release date a little more, and it kind of got me a bit nervous. The mantra for Halo Reach on PC and flighting, Halo Reach on MCC and MCC on PC, the entire time the mantra has been, it will launch when it's ready. It's ready when it's ready, right? And it seems a little bit like that may have been abandoned towards the end here, which is a bit disappointing to see. So maybe my concerns are unfounded, maybe they're not. I'm not entirely sure. Basically, I'm just going to be reading through this forum post that Postums posted the other day. I just said post a lot. And talking through my opinions on some of the things. So I'm going to skip the first part of it because it is just kind of like talking about their journey through flighting and building Halo Reach for the PC and everything. And it's kind of been like a long and arduous journey for them. Which they have done some amazing work, seriously. Regardless, even if these things that I'm going to be talking about aren't here at launch, you guys are still going to have an amazing experience with this game, and you're going to love it. It's just going to be just a bit disappointing, and we're just going to have to wait for something. So, hopping into the part of the post that has this information, so I'll just kind of read from the top here. It's called Important Issues and Where They Stand. Below are a handful of top issues reported by players in the Halo Reach flights and discussed by many across the Halo community. Each of these areas, and some additional issues, will be discussed again and in more details in the November update blog later this month. I'll be sure to try to make a video for that whenever that comes out. Our goal is to continue our transparency over key topics that are important to the community around our titles and continue to share what the status is for each area. Please remember that while Halo Reach is launching on December 3rd, the work is not done. From current flighting feedback to new issues reported after release, Reach will see more improvements and updates beyond launch, including the addition of Forge and Theater for PC later next year. So this last sentence is what I'm focusing on, which is very disappointing. Forge is incredibly important to have at launch, in my opinion, and I think it really hurt Halo 5 not launching with it back in the day, and so I'm sad to see that maybe they haven't learned from that, but hopefully a customs browser will still be included. It won't be as fun without Forge World, but we're just going to have to wait for that, I think. I think later next year is far too late for those features to come to the game because by then we're going to be pretty close to Halo Infinite. It's also kind of a vague date, later next year. I guess it's not a date, but a vague time frame. But yeah, we're going to be close to Infinite, and by that time, I think me personally, I'm going to be looking forward to playing Infinite. And if it comes out like right before Infinite, that's not going to leave a lot of time to kind of enjoy it and maintain interest in Halo over the long period of time between now and Halo Infinite. I think that kind of needs to be now, but my theory is they're actually adding a lot of new things to Forge and improving it, adding a lot of objects and vehicles that weren't actually there in the 360 version, which is really cool. So I guess if that's why it's taking a while, I understand. However, some modders already have gotten it to work in the flight, so I have no doubt that if actually the data is in the game, we'll get some sort of modded version of Forge. But yeah, hopefully that comes faster, and maybe they give us a bare bones version of it, just to at least have before they give us the version with all the other things. So that is unfortunate. Of course, theater mode is very important to me and other content creators. However, I don't think it's going to be the biggest deal breaker for PC players, so I'm not as concerned about that, even though it does kind of suck. Moving on, push to talk. He says, last week we talked slightly about this and that we were investigating a solution. Work on this feature is already underway. So basically, they're just working on adding a push-to-talk feature, which will be great. VSync. During the flight, based on user reports associated with what settings options were in effect, we identified an issue with VSync in some scenarios where it was not functioning appropriately. In some cases, it was not appropriately being turned off and added additional input latency because of it. We believe to have fixed this issue and will discuss it more again in the future. So that's great to hear. I'm sure that's going to be helping a lot of people with their input delay with mouse and keyboard, and yeah, that's just a good improvement. Next up is getting stuck in menus / miscellaneous crashes. He says, we believe the known issues reporting during the flight have been fixed for launch. The team has spent a significant amount of time investigating and resolving issues related to this over the past 2 weeks. Many were resolved in the most recent mid-flight update, but the ones we have investigated and are able to reproduce have been fixed at this time. This is also good stuff, kind of similar to what we heard in the last update. Just general improvements and crash fixes and stuff like that. So the next one is a big one: input delay issues. The team is currently investigating and iterating on multiple ways to address player feedback and improve mouse and keyboard input between now and launch. The live flight is behind our current code we are releasing with, so many of these improvements have already been implemented, and the team has confidence in how these investigations are progressing and will keep a close eye on this. We're committed to making a great PC experience and will continue making additional mouse and keyboard changes and flighting them post-launch as needed. Again, great to hear. I don't think the uncapped frame rate was the issue, so if the build that we're currently playing in the flight is really old, I have a good amount of confidence that the mouse and keyboard is going to feel pretty good at launch, considering they've already made a lot of improvements on top of that. So it's already feeling good for me, but it sounds like they're going to improve it even more, which is great. Moving on to controller aim on PC. This is one that's pretty controversial. He says, we are not currently planning to make changes to auto aim when using a controller on PC. The team is currently investigating the best way to handle input types, keyboard and mouse, controller, or both when playing. Looking back to the legacy Halo CE and Halo 2 PC titles, these have both shipped with a similar level of controller and mouse aim assist. If we make any changes to aim assist values for controller, it will essentially close the door on implementing crossplay between Xbox and PC down the road. We have heard from the community about a suggested opt-in feature and are discussing the impacts this would have on matchmaking by splitting the population and increasing search times. If we do choose to pursue an opt-in feature post-launch, we will be sure to flight them and ensure it is implemented correctly. So I completely understand what he's saying with this. However, my opinion on the whole controller aim assist debacle and, oh, should it be there, should it not be there, should it be reduced? I think after extensive testing, it would be a good idea to reduce it slightly. And which, I could be wrong, but here's my reasoning as to why. A lot of the aim assist factors that were in, the console version were there because you kind of needed them, right? You had a lot of times, Halo Reach back on the 360, you had a lot of times sub 30 FPS performance, really terrible motion blur, connection issues, and lower resolution. So you had all these factors that you had to deal with during gunplay, and beyond, being on a controller and having aim assist kind of being an important part of that, that had to be the way it was, to deal with all this stuff. And so once you bring this to PC, you no longer have those 4 issues for the most part. Connection issues obviously can come up whenever, and so what happens is when you bring those values to PC, it seems really powerful because you're no longer fighting all those other conditions, right? And so the need for such strong aim assist, I feel like, in my opinion, goes down a little bit. Not saying get rid of it completely, because that will make controller completely obsolete on PC. But as it is now, in my opinion, I think controller might be a little bit too strong, and that's a hard problem to solve. I'm not gonna, start hating on 343 if they don't change anything here, because it is a hard problem to solve. But in my opinion, I think it might be a good idea to reduce aim assist just a little bit, because I'm doing pretty well on keyboard and mouse now. But let me tell you, in these clips that you're watching, I switched to controller. I immediately got an overkill in that game. I immediately just started doing so much better once I switched to controller, just because aiming is just so easy with it. And so that's gonna be a hard one. Another big one: concerns about frame rate locked to 60 FPS. He says, in the current flight, we were able to test our experimental implementation with uncapped frame rate, and it does not meet our quality expectations. From our learnings, we're currently investigating and working on fundamental improvements. When we have a solution that meets our quality bar, we will first flight it with the community before releasing it more broadly. I disagree with this. I thought the unlimited frame rate worked very well on PC. Of course, that is just my experience, so this could be different over, a lot of systems or reports. But in my personal experience, the uncapped frame rate was very acceptable, and I think it is a massive mistake to omit uncapped frame rate from launch. Or at least something that could allow people to limit their frame rate. Because if I remember correctly, it was the variable frame rate aspect of uncapped that was the issue and what was causing problems. So instead of having a variable frame rate option, if they implemented like a 60 FPS cap, a 90 FPS cap, 144, 240 FPS, just introduce frame caps for people. If at the very least, if you're not going to have an unlimited option, if you're capping the game at 60, bringing it to PC, and you're wanting to build up hype again, this is not the way to do it, because PC players expect a lot, rightfully so, and that is something that you just need to have. And I thought it worked really well. Of course, that was only my own experience, but I think they should have at least options above 60. Next up, audio issues. So he says, to update Halo Reach require changing the encoding for audio entirely, which has made it sound different from its original release. We are aware that areas of the title don't sound ideally what we would like them to. It will take some time to investigate ways to improve the overall experience for audio, and when it is ready, we will flight to test fixes we can make prior to updating the title. So if they actually rebuilt the audio system from scratch, they did a damn good job, because 95% of the time it sounds perfectly accurate from my experience. There's just some outlying experiences where gun sounds will repeat and won't cycle through variations of things, and I've heard some complaints about like directional audio being kind of iffy sometimes, but I personally have not experienced that, but they've done a damn good job. So last but certainly not least is server latency issues. He says this was a topic that we received many tickets on over the duration of the flight. To help address this, we are planning to upgrade the servers used for our launch. We also are continuing to investigate and make improvements based on reports surrounding server latency, delays, and various network-related issues before launch. We intend to have several improvements made before December 3rd, but since we feel this is an area that can always be improved on, we'll continue listening and chasing down reports as time goes on. So that's pretty much it. He just basically continues to talk about how flighting is wrapping up on Monday here, which is probably the day that this is going up. And he just, signs off and says thank you for everyone for playing in the flight and helping out shaping Halo Reach. So, guys, that was a lot of information. I know you're probably completely overwhelmed now, but I'm just going to give kind of my opinion on all of this and talk about it a little bit. So first off, like I said, I'm very disappointed that Forge and Theater Mode aren't going to be on the PC version at launch. I think that's a big mistake. I think instead of rushing this game, they really need to take their time. I kind of suspect that they wanted to build hype with XO19, the Xbox event that happened just the other day, and use that opportunity to announce a release date. I don't know why the release date has to be so soon, because they still have issues they have to figure out, and it's really, I guess, disappointing that they decided to abandon the ready when it's ready kind of mantra that they've had this entire time right at the end. I'm not sure if that was a 343 decision or a Microsoft decision, but I think it would be a good idea to maybe delay the PC version of this game. As unideal as it may seem to release on Xbox first and then PC, if it's not ready, I don't think they should be releasing it on PC. So it has me a bit worried. That's not to say that, they can't fix these issues by launch, but with this forum post, basically a lot of what I'm hearing is, we have an idea of what's wrong, but a lot of these things just simply aren't quite ready, and we're gonna just continue to work on them post-launch, which, is kind of par for the course with a lot of different titles, but it's, man, I just keep saying it, but it's gonna release when it's ready. That's what they've been saying, and it just doesn't sound like it's the case now. But I'm very cautiously optimistic, and I'm still hopeful that it's gonna be a really solid experience on launch. I think the bare minimum, I can deal with Forge and Theater not being there initially. I hope they don't take, until, quote, late next year to make it into the game, because that is a long time. But I do hope at the very least we do have an uncapped frame rate option, or an option to cap it at a higher number than 60, because I think that's going to make a lot of PC players really upset, and it's a very important feature. I've been thinking about this a lot, and you only have one chance for a first impression, and that's the mistake all these games make launching unfinished. And with Halo being such a hyped and tenured title, this is the first time all the 360 games are coming to PC, and if they're not done, or if they're not in a good state, it's going to be very disappointing, and the cycle will continue. Hopefully I am being over dramatic here, but I am a bit nervous for Halo Reach's launch on December 3rd. Excited, but nervous. So, guys, we will see how that turns out. We'll see how that unfolds. That being said, this is going to be the end of the video. I want to quickly thank you all so much for all of the support on the channel recently. All the videos have been popping off view-wise, like all the likes, all the comments. I really appreciate all the engagement. I took a bit of a break from YouTube for a while, and I just kind of came back recently, and it's really, really motivating to see all the support on the video. So I truly cannot thank you guys enough for that. If you're new, definitely subscribe, because when Halo Reach on PC comes out, I will be doing a bunch of content for it, and as maybe pessimistic as I sound in this video, I am incredibly excited still. So thank you so much again. You guys are helping me out on my dream here. So yeah, can't thank you enough. With that being said, take care. I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.